Lieutenant Dan. There you go. That's a great way to start a video with a very good Forrest Gump reference. Because today guys, welcome to the video officially. Today in this video, I'm gonna cover the story of Lieutenant Dan, or at least the early stages of this character. Because of this whole story of Hurricane Helen and Hurricane Milton, this character has been like the most prominent and without a doubt, the most insane. How many people do you know that during a hurricane, two very bad ones, how many people do you know that would, be so fearless to stay on a fucking boat and ride out the hurricanes? Definitely not anyone else but him. Like, I've seen him so often on TikTok or Twitter with people being like, hell yeah, Lieutenant Dan, you rock. And like, it looks like some very thin guy like in Florida that's like, sunbaked, very thin, drinks only whiskey every morning and day, it's just fucked in general. But somehow, people like holding him up like a town legend for trying to choose to stay in a boat during a hurricane. As if like that isn't like the most dumb idea ever. So I wanted to look into him because whenever I want to see is there like a simple article about him, because there's no way the story of this crackhead, that's too mean, because there's no way the story of this Florida guy is so insane it couldn't be covered by a simple story, like very surface level. But when I tried to look him up on like any article or Twitter, there were so many different stories, branching out from just him, that seemed like actually insane how much stuff there was on him. As you see in this video, there's stuff like being interviewed by like news stations, being offered a gig contract by Adrian Ross, and then later on having his criminal history revealed to the entire world. And to start off, basically, as far as I know, this whole story, this whole lore canon started off when a guy on TikTok called Terrence Conacon, he made a video about going up to this guy on a boat during the upcoming days of Hurricane Helen, being like, oh my god, I just saw this crazy guy at the bay being like, he's gonna stay in his boat the entire night during the hurricane. And that video is very like, hey man, I don't give a shit about a hurricane, man. I'm gonna stay in my boat, man. I'm gonna be fine.
Real life Lieutenant Dan, big hurricane coming. What are you gonna say to the hurricane?
Fuck you. You want me? Come and get me.
Yeah.
Anybody. Wayne Devil, cops, anybody. Bring it on. I'm ready for you all.
Let's go. He's not leaving, baby.
My god, what a bizarre character. If I lived in Florida, thank God, if I lived in Florida and I saw this guy, I wouldn't be surprised, because there's so many people in Florida that seem like an actual caricature. I mean, so far from what I see, a weird haircut, a very biker's facial hair. As I said, sun-baked skin, and I'm not gonna make fun of his leg. That's awful. But at the same time, it doesn't make his whole character more bizarre. And to top it off, weird anime Jujutsu Kaisen tattoos all over his body. And not to mention unshaved armpits. Not good. But yeah, that video blew up, and this guy, Terrence Conacon on TikTok, he became a vessel for the story of Lieutenant Dan. And that name in general came from people seeing his one single cut off leg and be like, oh my god, he's like Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump. And because he lives on a boat, a very central theme to the actual guy that lost both legs. Yeah, okay. But yeah, from there it blew up, and I think he made multiple parts about him, upcoming the days, of when Hurricane Helen hit, and every time, every day he would go up to him and be like, hey man, do you want to go now, or do you want to sit on the boat? Nah man, I'll sit on the boat, man. I'm gonna be fine. And he never he always refused, to go anywhere, a shelter, because he could just ride it out on a boat. And that reminds me, when I made my video about that one crazy guy on that kick streamer that tried to camp out during Hurricane Helen, that video was so insane, because if any person can camp out on a street and we would be that in danger from what you saw in the video, then how much deep shit could someone on a boat actually get during a hurricane? Because it goes without saying that if you choose to be in a boat during a hurricane, yeah, you're gonna be fucked much more. I mean, it's not that surprising that it's coming from this guy, because like I said, he seems to be a very very chill out guy, and from Florida. So clearly his choice of staying on the boat isn't from a logical decision, around this time the sea level would rise and I'll be safe on my boat. It's more like a ride or die decision, if the hurricane hits me and I die, fucking man, at least I went out like Lieutenant Dan. But yeah, back to what I was saying. During the upcoming days of Hurricane Helen, he became more popular. Like even like he sort of became like a town legend in, you know, Tampa in Florida, the place where he was at, and like people went up to him to like help him, talk to him, or at least, you know, at least be motivated by him to be more positive and confident like him. And then even like people, like even interviews from like news station went to him to like get a story. And from there, the more lore came from him. Not only did he seem more, you know, more relaxed, more cooler, but even said like a story about like how the reason, you know, for his leg was because when he was 16, he lost his leg the worst way possible by going in a moped and getting into a car crash, and the car pinned him right down the leg and he had to get cut off. Like just the worst accident possible for this poor bastard. And from there, you know, from his whole character and that very sad story, that got more people to like him. And then, you know, like his fame, his notoriety on TikTok grew to be bigger and bigger. At which point, even the guy, Terrence, like I said, the vessel, he even made like a GoFundMe for him, which made a goal of $40,000. And within just even right now, like even like a couple of days after, when that was made back in like the late days of September, and now in October on the 12th, it's already surpassed that and made it to $47,000. So yeah, the story just got massive. And from there, after Hurricane Helen came and went, he was fine, thankfully. So yeah, his story got massive, and his fame continued to grow after Hurricane Helen came and went. I'm sure it was rocky from then, but he said like in the videos that the worst thing that happened, or the most annoying thing that happened, was how the police officers would not stop like, you know, pissing him off, going up to him and being like, hey man, you should definitely go to a shelter, because right now it's very likely you're going to die. Like I said, he was pretty pissed off by that, but at the same time, that's pretty like justifiable. If some random guy with a teeny tiny dinky boat wants to like ride out a storm, ride out a hurricane that's really bad on the fucking, you know, bay, then yeah, it should be the job of someone with authority to go to him and at least persuade them to get you somewhere safe, or somewhere safer than just a fucking boat. So yeah, they kept on pestering him until one police officer actually took him to a shelter for the morning, only for him to be released that same afternoon and just go back to the boat. So yeah, it's very like not that much progress, sadly. But around this time, Adin Ross, the big guy on Kick, he saw the story and was so enamored. He was so enamored by Lieutenant Dan that he actually called him up. Like he got in contact with Terrence that got called by him, and he even offered him to buy him a boat around the range of $50,000 to $100,000. And alongside that, even a Kick deal where like he would get paid for live streaming his adventures out in the sea or just living in his boat, like a very nice passive income. And that is just bizarre. I've seen like multiple deals before in the past handed out by Kick or Adin Ross for a very dumb reason. But never in my life would I imagine some crazy guy on a boat be given one to simply record himself or live stream himself just staying on his boat. Like just that simple. But at the same time, that is a bit heartwarming. Because this poor guy, I mean, you can clearly tell by his whole like the way he speaks and, you know, his whole personality, that he is the kind of guy that was just fucked over his entire life. And this Kick deal, this contract that would give him money, is probably the best thing he's had for years. So I'm not that pissed off by it. But the one thing that is upsetting was that around this time, and even in that stream where Adin Ross called him, Adin found or was sent a criminal case that was believed to be of Lieutenant Dan, talking about kidnapping and child you know what, and like very crazy shit that when he read it, he actually soy-faced. So it looked pretty bad on Adin and Kick to be giving this guy a contract, even though it wasn't really, because it turned out that that paragraph, that extract, wasn't about him at all. It was some other guy. But as opposed to that, when more people like knew about Lieutenant Dan, they actually went up to like look up like his criminal records like on a official database, and they found that he actually had multiple, like an actual full-blown criminal history with mugshots and everything. Like just look at this shit. The earliest one was from 2019, and it spanned over to the most recent later this year, around summer. So 5 years of criminal activity. And I'm gonna be honest, I do like these mugshots, because in each one he looks different. In this one, he looks like himself, He loses some hair, he shaves, some of the facial hair. And this one he looks black, It's a very extensive career or history about this character. And to be honest, I'm showing all this stuff right now, which looks really bad. But in all honesty, some of these, like 80%, I believe, are just bullshit. Like, they're kind of stuff like, oh, he was jaywalking. Oh, he was, he had a boat with no license to drive a boat, to be a captain, whatever. There's very minor stuff. But one of these, I'm not sure which one of them was pretty serious about how he punched a police officer after he got into a bar fight. I have no idea how, his condition of missing a fucking leg, but yeah, he somehow got into a fight, and then he punched the police officer just trying to arrest him. So he got that charge, which was pretty insane. However, I will say now, when I was reading up on this section of his character, of the criminal history, this section by The Independent of this article was actually insane, and take it with a pinch of salt, it is alleged, but this section of the story about this guy is so insane, I feel like I have to cover it. It wasn't a rumor about this guy, it's from an actual person about an alleged incident which could have happened, but was dropped, because like a lot of cases, it was dropped, and it could have been just forgotten about. But if it is real, it's actually like butt fucking insane. So here's this section right here, around halfway through. An affidavit seen by The Independent details an alleged incident in February 2023. According to the document, a woman was smoking on a bench on the east coast of Florida when she and Malinowski, oh yeah, by the way, that's his full name, Joseph Malinowski, who's 54, I should give that context way before, who was sitting on a nearby concrete bench, began to argue. Suddenly, he poured a 1-gallon container of gasoline onto the bench between the pair, igniting it, the affidavit states. The amputee grabbed his crutches and hobbled over to the woman, who was still holding her cigarette, and splashed her with the fuel. The woman was unharmed, but says she feared for her life given the close encounter. A judge later ordered Malinowski to house arrest, and in the margins of the order wrote, "violent history." But multiple reports note that the case was dropped a month later for unspecified reasons. So again, like I said, it's an alleged incident. I don't want to throw out this crazy case about this guy, which makes it seem like an actual nutcase. But yeah, the fact that it was mentioned about alongside criminal history, then yeah, it feels like that story has to come from somewhere, even if it is alleged. And as you mentioned, it does honestly line up with the whole character of a guy from Florida who looks just like him. Like, you can believe it somewhat. I'm not saying 100% it was him that it actually happened, but again, that story sounds so much like him or someone from like Florida that it has to be somewhat dipped in reality or honesty. I mean, thankfully, that fake story about like him kidnapping a person and child pornography, that was bullshit, like a bit of misinformation on Aiden's stream. But since then, since Lieutenant Dan's full criminal history was thrown out there online and people know about it, like he got more attention, some people have switched on him and started hating him, saying like how he's a piece of shit, a violent person that doesn't deserve the money or the attention. Which I guess, yeah, if you really do believe that story about like him throwing gasoline on a woman and you believe it to be true, I guess, yeah, that would make him look really bad. But at the same time, he's just like a random guy in Florida. Like, what were you really expecting when you saw the first video on him? Like, were you really expecting a martyr of good justice, like a very holy guy? No, of course not. He's probably just like any other guy that has no house, no home, and is living day by day, but just like buying whiskey and living on his boat. Like, a very long criminal history would come with the territory of him being that, some guy in Florida that's living on the side, like a very shitty life. So yeah, if you saw the first video on him and you keeping up the story of Lieutenant Dan and you didn't have any suspicion of a long past with some violence, then yeah, that's completely on your fault. So don't do a complete switch, okay? But thankfully, saying Aiden Ross, after he looked at his criminal history, like all the cases, he looked at them and he made the decision that some of them weren't that bad, and he wanted you to move forward with the contract and the deal, to sort of like buy him a boat and offer him a cake contract. Saying as well the very generic quote, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, I'm not sure about that, because if there's actual cases on him that was already decided in court, I'm not sure like how long that extends. And even though he's getting the money, thankfully, which is good, I'm still blown away. Like how people are turning on him and getting away from the attention. Like being like, after they saw like the criminal cases, they were like, oh my god, fuck him. And especially as well now when he was live streaming on Kick or TikTok. I think it was both of them. He threw out the N-word just like out of nowhere while he was talking.
It's gonna be hard. Because once I cut you off, you're done, nigga. Sorry.
Like, it wasn't violent, like, he wasn't aggressive. Like, he was just saying casually, just throwing it out there. And people when they saw that, like on Twitter, they were like, oh! They're very shocked. As if they weren't expecting like, a 50-year-old guy in Florida to not be off his rocker a tiny bit. Like, wow, yeah, he's not based or woke, oh my god. But yeah, but that's only like a very small part of this whole story of this fucking crazy guy. And to end the video, as of recent, after Hurricane Helen, like I said, he was fine. And around the most recent hurricane, Hurricane Milton, the worst one, thankfully, I am glad to say that it didn't really affect them, much worse, because that hurricane, it just grazed over Tampa a tiny bit, not really affecting it. And even though like on the night or the day, it was very rocky on the boat, he was fine, thankfully. Like, it could have been much worse of a hurricane as big as Milton. So yeah, to end the story of Lieutenant Dan, I'm blown away by his whole story, because it is insane. I'm not sure how I feel about the people like promoting a story about a guy being irresponsible and just dumb by staying on a boat during 2 hurricanes. But as long as he's fine, I don't really care. And the other thing is that I'm also really shocked like how dumb people are. Like, when they find this crazy guy in Florida, like, have a whole career, a whole history of him being a criminal, where he's very clearly, not a very well-off guy, and they're being shocked by that, then yeah, I have no idea why people expect you to be a normal guy when he's clearly had a shitty life through and through. Like, when you're living on a boat day by day in Florida, in Tampa, then of course you'd be fucking crazy, especially him, and also missing a leg since you were 16. So of course that poor bastard. But at the same time, like, people are complaining like how people like him and some other people online, they get famous from nothing, having a story, just blowing up from nowhere. But at the same time, out of all the people that got lucky for nothing, people that got lucky from nowhere, just blowing up randomly, I am thankful that it was this guy that also got massive, got a lot of attention and some money as well. Cause think about it, very few people blow up that go from living like being homeless to having more money and being more famous, having more help compared to anyone else. Like Hayley Welch, the tour girl, like she went from having like a pretty good life, like having some money, being way more famous. At which point she probably made a couple $100,000 from the whole meme. And by comparison to this guy, I'm much more happy that this guy got a lot of money and blew up. I don't feel happy about like him being a very dumb person, like living out on a boat during a hurricane. So hopefully in the future he learns from this, to be a bit more safer, to be so responsible and having people worry about him. So yeah, as long as he uses the money and fame to live a better life and get an actual fucking home, then yeah, I don't really care about the story, other than that it's just funny and just very, very insane, very crazy chat.